We've had household name CEOs crying just with that connection of nature, the reality of how beautiful the world is. That's when the magic happens. You can't just schedule in next Tuesday, 9 to 10, we're going to come up with some great ideas. You can't just take your kids and put them in another 7-star hotel and ridiculous meals and setups and massages and everything else, and maybe you get a pop star to come and do a little sing-song for you. They want them to come back enriched, and they want them to come back in understanding the world more. Just don't do stupid shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds maybe too obvious, but people sometimes forget that.
Welcome to the CEO DNA podcast, the podcast for CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries who really want to do something great and experience something very unique, and not only building meaningful and sustainable businesses, but also experience something very unique. And the guest today, he is making this happen. So basically, he is making unique moments possible, what normally you cannot buy. He works with some of the most successful and richest people on this earth, and he makes them very happy by showing them pure nature. So welcome, Henry, to the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here.
Thank you for being here. How would you describe what you do?
Wow, that's a good first question. Don't hold back. I would say extraordinary. Dream making. It's taken many years. It's been 20 years now, and I get the feedback. I get the confirmation. I bump into people in all walks of life, all parts of the world, and they're just like, wow. They see what we do. They've experienced what they've done, and they say it's life-changing.
So let me explain it a little bit. So basically, the man who makes dreams come true, life-changing moments with yourself, with your family, by doing not non-ordinary things, mostly in nature. Your clients are billionaires, millionaires, who want to experience something normally money can buy. That could be a sauna in the Antarctic?
It could be a sauna in the Antarctic. We recently just helicoptered a sauna onto a glacier in Alaska.
Wow.
So clients flown in, sauna, cold plunge in water which is tens of thousands of years old, melt water from the glacier, that azure blue, not a soul within hundreds of kilometers, pure wilderness, but a wellness experience sort of blended into that.
I think there's a lot of things we also can learn from leadership when it comes to how you set it up. Because sometimes, what was one of the most extreme things you have done?
So, I mean, again, a lot of people, I think, you talk about founders, they seed an idea and they have a vision, they work to that vision. I'm slightly different in the fact that I was sort of running away from life. Right. I didn't know where I fitted, how I was going to participate in this crazy world that we have. I tried banking, I tried a bit of property, but it didn't feel right. And so I ran. And in that course of running and trying to understand myself, I crossed the Antarctic for 53 days. We used kites to rediscover a statue of Lenin that had been left there in the 1950s by a Soviet expedition. I trained Prince Harry and a group of amputee injured veterans to go to the North Pole. I participated in ski races across the Canadian Arctic, polar bears, minus 30 degree temperatures. So all of this was getting to know me, and having achieved the success, having got a Guinness World Record. That was the moment. It's just like, this is my pathway. I want to share this experience with people and show them there is more to life than just amassing wealth, being successful in your business frame, but what do you do outside of that?
I think it's so interesting that so many entrepreneurs really find themselves and their strategy in nature. That means as soon as you connect yourself really with the basis, and there are many examples from Steve Jobs, God bless him, but so many other very successful entrepreneurs always said, look, I went to nature, went for a walk or something more extreme, a hike, and I became a clarity what would be the next move. For you, for sure it was, because before you started this, you already mentioned you started as a banker. You moved on a bit to real estate. You were not really happy, and also you had something what normally not so many people talked about, but you told me that this is okay. You almost had like a depression.
Yes.
You said it was like very depressive, and I think many people have that and are too scared to talk about it. What would be your hint, your tip for people who have this to get out of it?
I think we're getting better as a society at talking about these things. You know, before there was this sort of pride, there was a shame, you'd brush things underneath the carpet. And what I've learned over the years that you were constantly telling lies because you were covering, you were making excuses for the inadequacy of you see. And especially now, we see everyone, they're put on pedestals, they're successful, they're doing podcasts, they have an Instagram feed, and you think, wow, they've made it, they're doing great. Look at their partner, they're beautiful or handsome, they drive the right car, they've got the right house, they're making, millions, if not billions. It's very normally a different story behind the scenes. So I think it's that vulnerability, being able to actually open up, not be fearful of that. We're all imperfect beings,
right?
But we created this artificial world where everyone is held to such a high standard, and the pressure to keep that standard. We all know as entrepreneurs, keeping a business going, keeping that year-on-year growth, keeping your team together, keeping them motivated, and then having to deal with external factors, geopolitical risk. I mean, you come from Dubai, huge, great, out of nowhere impact.
Yes.
So having to adapt and keep smiling, keep strong, keep brave. You're allowed to be frail. You're allowed to be human from time to time, and to reach out to help. I think it's asking for help. I did a podcast recently where it was the first time I really shared the depths of my story. I had numerous people reach out, including a guy who was on the verge of suicide.
Wow.
And that story that I gave him another glimmer of hope. So it's sometimes as the denial, there's not knowing how to step forward.
Yeah.
It's just asking that question. It could be your spouse, your partner, it could be a business colleague, it could be an old friend, it could be a doctor. But taking that step is the biggest one. I remember at the depths of my despair, like I was at my lowest ebb. I didn't have that bravery to reach out. I had two great friends. They tapped me on the shoulder. They sat me down. They said, "It's okay. We will take care of your company. We'll put it on ice for a year. You do you." And I feel that physical sensation right now. The relief that it was okay just to relax for a second and put yourself first. Because if you're not in a strong place, if you're not in a good place, how can you help your business? How can you help the world? How can you help your family?
Yeah, a good point here. So number one, go out and look for help if needed. I think that's a good point. And the second thing also, to take yourself first, like we learn in an airplane, put the mask first on yourself before you help everything around your business, your other things. I think that's interesting and important. So you're the founder and you started Cookson Adventures. So out of what? When did you say, okay, let's do just crazy stuff nobody normally can buy and go to the North Pole? How did it start?
So the running, that started in 2004. I did my own private expeditions, had a huge amount of success. And then having focused on the sort of final major expedition that I did on a personal basis was this trip across the Antarctic to find Lenin in the middle of the Antarctic, a place called the Pole of Inaccessibility, the most remote point on our terrestrial planet, and a place that hadn't been visited in nearly 4 decades. And so that was my North Star. And that's what kept me going. And the moment we were successful, we found that statue of Lenin, then suddenly everything shifted. The excitement, the celebration, the shared experience with your colleagues, we were a team of 4 people, that started to disappear. The anticlimax starts coming in, and then what's next? And that was the moment. It's like, actually, I've got something here. This is something I can share with people. This is something I can bring to the world. And for about 2-3 years, we were doing the more extreme, extreme adventure type trips. And then it moved into sort of what I call the softer adventure, the more experience-rich stuff, which opened it up to a wider type of person. Not necessarily having to put yourself through huge physical limits, but something you could take your family on, something you could take your friends with. In terms of the decision, the direction, in terms of having a clientele who are the higher tranche of success, what I found is I would come up with an idea. For instance, one was taking quad bikes across South America, from the Pacific side in Chile, all the way through the Andes, through Argentina and Brazil, and then end up on the Atlantic coast. In order to do that, we need to do a return trip, and we had to buy all the machines. So I needed 8 people for each trip to pay a certain amount of time to commit to a certain date. And trying to corral those cats,
right?
Because back then I didn't have the huge global spread and the know-how, the reputation. It was hard. And we were always just short. So I then made a decision, one principle only. One person pays, one person makes the decisions. If they want to organize things behind the scenes between their friends or whatever, that's up to them. And there was a flexibility. There's no set departure. There's no set cost. Mm-hmm. It's ideas, and we build those ideas. It's that concept of, you get a suit made in Savile Row in London. You go in, you're choosing the material. Maybe even you have a new material designed, and then they fit you, and you'll go back 2 or 3 times. Right. Because in the end of the day, we work very hard. Yeah, too hard sometimes. We have that success, and our most precious commodity is our time. So I approach things, and my team approach things like, this is your special time. How can we make this as perfect as possible? Why do it sort of half-hearted? Why not throw everything into it? Because after all, what do we work for? Mm-hmm. We work for that time and rewarding ourselves and spending time with our friends, with our loved ones, and sometimes in nature as well. Increasingly people are becoming aware of the benefits of what nature are from a selfish point of view. It provides sort of, it's nurturing, it's fulfilling. Right. But then also from a sense of giving back, we do a lot of trips which get involved with conservation. Mm-hmm. And it's been shown by time and time again by psychologists, the art of giving. Not just writing a check and sending it off to help something, but actually getting involved gives you an incredible psychological boost. Mm-hmm. So this is a sort of win-win-win. You get an amazing time away somewhere, you become educated, you better understand the world, you're helping the world, you're helping people.
Interesting. So how does it all start? So basically, let's say one of those billionaires comes to you and says, give me an adventure and I will never forget. Yeah. Or will it be more like, I want to help the elephants in Kenya?
There's no rule book.
Okay.
Some people come with a very specific idea. Some people, I've heard you do interesting things. Surprised me. Just this morning, I'm sitting at a lecture. It was a past Prime Minister of Israel. I get a little beep on my WhatsApp. There's a guy from Reunion Island. A volcano has just erupted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's spectacular. It's spewing lava into the air. The lava is rolling down and falling into the sea, and there's a steam coming up there. So this is a really interesting opportunity. You can go and witness one of nature's greatest spectacles, the earth pouring its, its blood out onto the earth.
Action,
and you can go and see it from a boat or get it from above, from a helicopter. And we don't know how long this is going to go for. It might be a matter of days. It might be a matter of weeks. Mm-hmm. But it's like, right, team, here you go. Who are the people that we think are ready to go quick, last minute, to see one of nature's greatest spectacles? So sometimes a very proactive push. We have an opportunity. We throw it out to the people who we're in touch with. Or another person came in this morning. It's our uncle's birthday. It's a big birthday. We want to go somewhere where it's cool in the summer. We think the Southern Mediterranean is probably a bit hot. What can you do for us? So
it's the decision what to do. Then you have a team of freelancer, but also on.
So we have a self-contained team in London, 35 people. We're very adamant that the team comes in and works with each other because this is a creative space.
Right.
And we're now in the age of Zoom calls and remote work and everything, but you cannot schedule creativity. You know, this is a company that thrives on creativity. So there is a big insistence. You know, when we put out an advert for a job placement, we get people from all around the world. It's, yeah, can I work remote? It's like, no. You know, you need to come and work in, and you need to feed that idea factory. It's the time that you get spending with your colleagues, walking to lunch, standing around the coffee maker, having a drink after work. Yeah. That's when the magic happens. You can't just schedule in next Tuesday, 9 to 10. We're going to come up with some great ideas.
Good point. So it's really this combined brainstorming to get the best result from your best practice.
Yeah, and everyone in that company, they live and breathe what we do. You know, we're very proud of the sort of the bond of the team. You know, we do these amazing offsites. They go and, you know, they're friends. They hang out.
Nice.
And that sees it. You know, they live it. They'll see something on television. They're inspired by a James Bond chase that they see. And it's like, we need to go and repeat that somewhere. So we're just constantly throwing ideas in there. And again,
how can we repeat it? How can it be still somehow safe?
Yeah, and the challenge is, how do you get that huge wealth of information out to the clients without overwhelming them?
Yes.
You know, but then, you know, we're getting better at the CRMs, what our particular clients, what their favorite things are, what they like. Like, for example, the volcano. Who are the guys and the girls who can last minute just say, sod it, I can jump in the plane.
Yeah.
I want to go and see this volcano. So again, that's where, you know, technology. Everyone talks about technology, AI. You know, we're quite old-fashioned in terms of having to be together to create those things. But then we're really leveraging AI. How do we identify which of our clients, what their preferences are, and record that so we can really be laser focused in terms of what people want.
So there's the idea, then of course the decision what to do. Then your team becomes very creative. Whatever this is, I want to do from James Bond this scene or something else. And then the people go to the exhibition. What changes do you see in those people when they come at the beginning and at the end? Because you had now thousands of people already who went.
We probably had, in the 20 years we've been operating, we've sent about 2,600 people, including repeats. That's the amount of feet on the ground. So a relatively small amount. But you know, the impact of what they do, you know, the range of things what they do is incredible.
And I mean, the prices start, I guess, with I don't know, $500,000.
We started at about 200,000.
200,000 for 1 week.
It could be a couple for a weekend.
Okay.
It's not going to be for a large group going away on multiple weeks. Everything is.
But obviously, it's something what you know, like you already have to create a certain amount of wealth to be able to afford this. And then they come to you. They're already quite successful in their business.
Yeah.
But do you see a change when they come and then when they go?
Before we go deeper, a quick note. 48% of watching haven't subscribed yet to the CEO DNA podcast. If this show brings you real conversations with real leaders and visionaries, then joining the CEO DNA community helps us to bring even more powerful minds on this show. We don't run ad, we don't chase noise, we build conversations that change how founders and visionaries and people think. So if you want more of that, then please take a second, subscribe, and let's build this movement together.
So there's such a range of types of individuals, but typically the way that the travel industry is set up, it is actually quite limited. You know, the world has grown. There's more experiences out there. There's more product, but it's off the shelf, and so people have been conditioned to a certain type of travel, which has its constrictions. Because a travel company usually, you know, they have a time constraint. They want to get that trip over the line, and they want to move on to the next trip because they have a volume-based business. We're not a volume-based business. It's a hard business model.
Right.
You know, we're only doing 40, 45 trips a year, and that's a team of 35 people. A normal travel company would be doing several hundred trips with that volume of people. But we are incentivized to take our time in going and finding different ways of traveling, different ways of doing things. We've got a trip going to Kilimanjaro, totally new route, never been done before. And that takes time and research. You can't just magically come up with it.
Right.
So for those who have the success, and you know, you mentioned earlier, it's like, you know, what does a billionaire ask for? You know, you don't need to be a billionaire to travel to a certain level. If you think of someone who's bringing in 100, 150,000 euros, pounds a year, they're still going to be spending 20, 30,000 of that on their travel. That's a big proportion of their income.
Right.
So you multiply that to someone who is a successful multimillionaire, they still have incredible spending power. And some of our biggest spenders they're not on any rich list. They just appreciate for them the value in terms of their time away and how they do it.
Having those
They'll spend
unique moments.
Much bigger proportion of their wealth.
Yes.
Whereas a multi-billionaire, sometimes, they've been conditioned to a certain type of travel.
Yeah.
I'll go and stay in Andaman here. I'll go and do this 4 seasons in the Maldives. That's the limit that you can spend money on. Mm-hmm. So when they come to us and then we open up this world, sometimes it's hey, wait, what's going on? And so you might have to start gently. Just give them a taste to open their eyes a bit. Most of the trips we have, we'll have a host there. One of our team is there, plus all the experts on the ground together. And that's when the conversation really starts. You can see the emotive reaction when you get them swimming with whales or take them to some ancient forest and they do some forest bathing and a sound bath and gongs. We've had household name CEOs crying just with that connection of nature, the reality of how beautiful the world is. Right. And then that starts growing into something else. And the majority of our clients are repeats. So as we get to know them better, they know us, they get to trust us. It's like, you go with it. You tell us where's next. You educate us. You are in charge of educating our children to the world.
Right.
Because we're in a world now where privilege is everywhere. And these families are very aware of it. You can't just take your kids and put them in another 7-star hotel and ridiculous meals and setups and massages and everything else. And maybe you get a pop star to come and, do a little sing-song for you. They want them to come back enriched, and they want them to come back in, understanding the world more. And that's where the conservation piece and the social responsibility piece comes in. Get them involved with a rhino translocation. You're up in a helicopter, you're sitting next to a sharpshooter, they're darting that rhino, and then you, your family, your friends, you're going in, you're helping the vets, stabilize this 1-ton animal. Got the dust, the smell, the sweat, the flies, everything. And then you give it the antidote. This animal wakes up and you've got to get it into the crate, and then you're relocating it to a new area. And that is establishing a new population for this animal in a different part of the world. We just did one with elephants between Namibia and Angola. Totally new population of elephants now seeded on the back of our client's trip.
Nice.
Now, what a story that is.
100%.
Yeah, you come back rather than, to see, you must have done a safari, you see any of these magnificent animals from a car, you take your pictures. It's a life-changing moment.
100%. Yeah.
But then you take it another step forwards.
Yeah.
You're handling, you're
actively
touching,
involved in it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Nice.
And you've left that mark forever.
Henry, super exciting to hear all those stories. So yes, I understood then the people must really have not only a story to tell, but also come back a bit differently. And again, I also understood that you have a lot of clientele who already is quite successful in what they do in the business world from a financial point of view. Do you see characteristics, what they all have in common? Because you meet them in the extreme situation when in all of when you go to the Kilimanjaro, when you have the frozen beard, and is there some characteristics what you would say there are synergies?
I think one of the biggest one is the short attention span.
Oh wow!
I think that the mindset that allows people to sometimes achieve success is that ability to look at lots of different things and quickly and make analysis and move on. So it's how do you people don't come to us to sit on a beach. They come to fill their day. Yeah. And it's about getting that level. What level of Energizer bunny are they? How extreme do we push them? And again, extreme is a word. It's relative to who you are. For some people, just going to a certain destination is an extreme step. For other people, they have to be thrown out of a helicopter to get that rush. So everyone has a different relative understanding of what that is. And we found, having me started off doing the hardcore expeditions, and, we film and we photograph all our stuff. We create these little documentaries for our clients. To promote our business, we would show the more extreme stuff. And what we found that actually would scare people off. Because we'd have very happy clients and they'd say, hey, my best friend, go and check out these people. And they'd look at the website, they'd look at the social media, and it's all like, bam, 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 bam. It's like, this is too much. We were doing a lot of soft stuff, a lot of very easy things, but we weren't promoting it. So we sort of slightly re-gauged how we frame what we do.
Because it's sometimes, those little things. I had a good friend visiting me in Dubai, and he said, Michael, let's get up tomorrow morning to look the sunrise in the desert, because we were sleeping in the desert. I said, look, I'm very tired. I don't know, 5 a.m., not my time. So I went to bed. And then I was sleeping, and at one point somebody knocked at my door, and he convinced the hotel reception to get him another key, and he woke me up, said, let's go.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most nicest moments I could imagine. And sometimes it's those things, seeing a sunrise in the desert where you say, okay, I've seen it all. I don't want to get up at 5, but it's sometimes exactly this, I think.
We've had, talking about volcanoes, we were in the Galapagos a few years ago on a huge yacht. We were doing a lot of conservation, families, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone in my room goes, and it's the bridge, and it's like, Wolf Volcano is erupting. This has not erupted in decades. You are there for the emergence of a volcano.
Wow.
And I didn't even have to think.
Yeah.
We call the guests. Doesn't matter how many millions they pay for this thing. This is an experience they will never, ever forget.
True.
That you're part of a geological history.
Yeah.
No one can really plan that one.
Be there on this ship.
So you have to have that confidence to be able to, like your friend, knock on the door and just say, you need to see that sunset.
How do you take those decisions in extreme situations?
I mean, what's an extreme situation? I think
because you did also have sometimes between life and death, at least from your own exhibitions.
You say that, but I'm very risk averse. I just have a very good understanding of what risk is. So what it might be perceived as dangerous is actually very secure. So the three sort of main rules is great equipment, good planning, and you have great people around you. You have that, we can afford the best.
We can learn from it in business, by the way.
You can learn that from in business.
Yeah.
A lot of people need to make a career from their adventures, in terms of a personal explorer adventure type thing. So they need to sell, they sell books, they need to do their talks. They're going to tell you it's more extreme, it's more dangerous than it really is, because that's exciting.
True.
They're not going to tell you I walked to the pole of inaccessibility and I found Lenin, it was easy. I tell people that because I didn't find it particularly hard. I'm not in the business of being the professional explorer. I'm not writing books. I'm in the business of telling people how it is. And so I slightly opened the door a bit, and I pulled the curtain back, and actually, this thing isn't as tough as people think it is. The main barrier to polar expeditions is actually financial. That's the hard one. So people have to go around, they have to get their sponsorship. Their sponsors want a good story. So they're not going to tell you it went perfectly and nothing happened, I didn't get frostbite and there was no polar bears and there was no crevasses, because that's no story.
So again, plan, equipment, the right people.
Right people, yeah. And an attitude of just don't do stupid shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds maybe too obvious, but people sometimes forget that.
Yes.
If you're in a part of the world, you're in an environment that you don't really understand, don't do stupid shit. There could be a crevasse out there. There could be a polar bear. There could be a mine. We're doing trips in Angola at the moment. A lot of the country is now cleared from mines, but you don't go wandering off to certain areas unless you get the okay from the relative authority.
Let's talk about stupid shit. What did you do about maybe when you went by yourself? Was there something where you said, okay, that was actually like a life and death situation for yourself?
I think there's two moments. So when I had my success in the polar expeditions, and then I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I better learn about it a bit, because I just fallen into it totally by accident. And so I went off to Alaska for 3 months, and I did these various sort of guide element training things: mountaineering, sea kayaking, whitewater rafting. And there were two moments. There was one moment where one of the guides I got on very well with, and I had a couple of beers with me, and I was like, this is boring. There's lectures tonight. We're in the middle of the wilderness. Let's go and have some beers. And we went and walked down this path down the coastline, sat down, had the beers, watched the sun going down. Again, this is in July in Alaska, so the sun never truly goes down. It's still light, sort of 24 hours. But I didn't even begin to think of it because my understanding of ocean tides was Mediterranean. Nothing. This is the Pacific Northwest. You're getting 7, 8, 9 meter tides.
Wow. Yeah.
Our path back had been blocked because of the tide, and we had to crawl down these cliff faces. I mean, if you slipped, you weren't getting back out of the water, and this water was maybe 7 degrees. This was in a place called Glacier Bay. There were huge icebergs being pulled in the thing.
Wow.
Hypothermia would have got us in no time. And then on the same 3-week expedition, we were sea kayaking around. There were some whales feeding right next to the shore. The way the land goes straight down into these fjords. It's very, very deep. And I wanted to get a picture. So I kayak over, I get close, I got my camera, and this whale just comes up right in front of my kayak. Huge thing, 4 times the length of my kayak. I'd never been close to a whale before. I had to drop the camera in my lap and paddle out of the way. But again, had that flip me, there was no one around to help me. Ice cold water. Because I'd gone out specifically to see the whales, I hadn't put my immersion suit on. So, good life lessons, that spur of the moment decision. It's without the planning and the preparation, you get yourself stupid shit.
Wow, exciting. I also saw lots of interesting pictures and videos from you already. It's really mind-blowing what nature and life has to offer, but then again also to do the right decisions. How do you do decisions when people's life depends on your decision? When you sometimes have to think, we have to now cancel this day or this final trip and go back, or we still go and push through it when the weather conditions changes or something like that happens.
So we have the way that the company is set up, we have just one part of the company is purely there for risk analysis. So they are checking insurances. They are checking that the pilots we have the right experience. We're checking that helicopters have the right service records. We're looking at problematic weather situations. If we're going to an area which has a little bit of political risk, if something happens, what are our exit strategies? Where are the nearest hospitals? So you have all the preparation there. So then you actually have a framework that you can lean on very, very quickly.
True.
And then you are working with the best people in the industry, the best people with the local knowledge. So I have a level of understanding, I have a level of practicality, but I'm supported by people who live and breathe this every single day. I used to do a lot more of the guiding directly myself. Now not so much. I have responsibilities. I'm running a business. I now live in Verbier, most of the year. And so there are other people better than me. So I allow them to make those calls. You can be there to give context in terms of what the clients are, but ultimately you devolve that to the people who are best placed. We get asked sometimes about bringing in the celebrity guide. The household name, the guys on the television. I always caution against that because the celebrity guide, he has 2 caps. He has the caps when he's guiding, and he has the cap when he's on television and he's giving his podcast and he's doing his social media and he's selling his books. So he's not 100% focused on the task at hand. Whereas the guy who's less well known, he's out there every single day on the coalface. That's the person you want in your camp, not the person with the big character and all the Instagram followers. Have both, but don't just have the celebrity. At least that's the caution that I always give.
Thank you. But let's say you have to say, we're going back. We're not going to the top of the mountains. Yes, you climbed, you paid for it. Yes, you took your vacation on. Yes, we flew here. Yes, and you want to have this trophy picture on top with the flag on the top of the mountain. But you made the decision, we go back. How do you tell it to your clients, and how is it perceived, and what do you do when they say, no, sorry, I still want to go?
So the first thing is you lay the ground rules.
Yes.
This is our domain. You said this right at the beginning of the trip. This is our domain. We're in charge. Your safety becomes first.
We make sure you're safe.
So that is also always preceded. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you have a backup plan. There's always a backup plan. The night before any big day is what the weather's looking like. Well, so here we are. Okay, if this can't work, what do we do? So then you have an easy off ramp that you can then present to your client.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. To be honest.
But a good point to learn also for us entrepreneurs to make the ground rule clear and then still plan scenarios what might happen in different situations and how you would react, because then you can take faster decisions and fast implementations in the moment when you say I have a helicopter on standby because I learned.
Well, the last thing you want is an expression where you got the thumb up your ass. You know, you tell a client no. They're not used to getting the no.
Yes.
You need to have that alternative.
Yeah.
You know, there needs to be something as an off ramp. So that's the way that we train and we educate our staff and the people we work with. And then also, as you said, we preempt things with the guests. This is our world. You know.
So you're doing this now for centuries, over 20 years.
Yeah.
What would you tell your younger self at the beginning, starting this company? What would you tell yourself?
Get a mentor. Get a mentor and ask for more advice. I did it all on my own. I never read a self-help book or how to build a business or watch a YouTube thing. I never had a mentor out there. I never, it was just purely on instinct. And somehow it seemed to have worked, but I think we probably could have built it
faster
quicker
and maybe easier.
And also, one of my weaknesses is structure and organization. I have the vision for it, but actually implementing it myself, it doesn't interest me. So that would always be a sort of side thing, and that in the end, when you get to a certain size, creates chaos. So for a long time, you had the front-looking Cookson venture. We delivered amazing projects. We had repeat clients who came back who were very happy, but the internal operations of the company was sort of slightly held together by sticky tape. And this is now 10 or so years ago.
How did you solve that?
Bringing in the right people, and I was still. It took me time. The whole idea of paying top dollar for really good talent. I was always fighting that. I was always like, I could get someone in a little bit,
to save money here on there.
Money like that. Invest in your people. I think, every CEO, entrepreneur will say that it's the people around you who make the business. And I wish I'd got that memo a long time ago.
Yeah, I think so many learning, especially to also understand, to work with the right people together who are the experts in the field, and also to understand sometimes, there's somebody more an expert than me in this field, so let's pass it on, to put the own ego also aside, what you said, no, he makes a decision now if you continue to the mountains or not, because he's more experienced in this weather conditions and in this field. I think that's also something where we as entrepreneurs sometimes need to put really the ego aside and look at the bigger picture, what should be the outcome.
I think in addition to that, there is a certain type of personality in a founder, in an entrepreneur.
Yes.
There are certain things that just seem so stupidly obvious to you, but maybe it doesn't. You need the different character types. That different blend to fit the puzzle together to have a successful business.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's pausing. And it's going into the mindset of the people who work with you on an individual basis and look at things from their perspective.
Yeah.
If you were in their shoes, how would they be looking at you when you're about to say what you're about to say?
Yeah.
Because what may make total sense to you is not necessarily make sense to them. And that's something I'm still working on. But I now have that understanding. In the end of the day, you want a loyal team. You want to have a good relationship with the people. You need to be fair, but you need to push people forwards. And sometimes they might have a different perspective.
How important is it for you to build long-term relationships with your colleagues? That means to really have them those 20 years working with you? Or would you say, okay, I just get expert in 3 years and then another expert because the company is also growing and we have different demands?
No, we're really lucky. We have really good retention.
Yes.
We have huge loyalty. As I said, there's a really good bond between the team. And that's something we work really hard at. We go out of our way to try and give them, we have these incredible offsites, we have access to these properties around the world, and we'll take the whole team there and do something incredible. And there's always a balance. I'd like to do more of it, but you also have a task at hand of running a business. It's always, there's such a body of knowledge. We are in the process of getting that more digitalized, using AI to build on that thing. But you're only ever going to extract so much from in here. It doesn't matter whatever whip you might have, you're never going to do a full download. And in a sense, you're only as good as the team that you build.
Yeah. You're already here. Let's build this relationship. If you're still watching, there's a reason. You're not here for the noise. You're here for the real story. So join us properly, subscribe. Let's stay close and let's grow this conversation and this group together.
And the character and the knowledge, the capabilities they have. What would be your superpower to operate in such extreme situations and environments?
I have this actually came across during a conversation with a guest when I was in Costa Rica, and we were talking about this.
So you will sit with the guests and also mingle
and have dinner with them. A lot of guests have come good friends, and we were talking about different types of intelligence. And we typically look at EQ, IQ. Those are the main ones. But he was like, well, there's this other intelligence, operating intelligence. And for many years, I had no idea, but I don't really think. I just see something and it just makes sense. It just appears. Whether it's a relationship problem that you're having with your team, or if it's family and friends, whatever it is, or if it's a logistical problem of how you're going to serve it together to create a multi-country trip with lots of different elements to it. I would just, it would be there. I'd have a map in front of me, I'd go, dun, 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 dun. And for a long time, I just assumed everyone had that same vision. And I would tell my team, do that, and they would go,
wow.
This was back in the day. And so it's just being more aware of what your various strengths are, and not necessarily everyone has that. But then, as I said, one of my big failings is the structure, the organizational stuff, the accounts, the micro details. It's all in my head, but then able to download that thing, there's a reticence.
So would this be the biggest mistake in your leadership so far, when you look back? If you could change one thing in your leadership style in extreme situations?
Yeah, I think it was having a better understanding of the differences of capability between what I had and what my team had, and assuming that they understood what I had. I think that was one that was, and as I said, there was an element of chaos to start with. I think a lot of companies have an element of chaos to start with.
Yeah, I think they need this.
We all see the shiny exterior, the fancy logos, the slick marketing and PR. At the end of the day, most people, they go and start a new job somewhere or take over a company, and it's like, it's not so shiny on the inside.
And you know what's also interesting? Sometimes as bigger the company is, as sometimes more chaos it is actually behind the curtain, right? So I spoke with somebody who sold a business actually for $8 billion US dollars to another big company. And he said, Michael, I never had so much chaos. It's interesting sometimes, when I thought, okay, this is like, so organized, it must be super structured. He said, no, there was no structure at all. And but I think it's about then having the right team, as you said, to put the structure in place, or to understand how to operate in chaos. And sometimes maybe I don't want to compare it now with a war zone, but even in a military operation, to still understand we somehow moving forward and into the right direction.
Like for me right now, the big push is communication. It is simple as that.
So you give each other then feedback also?
It's the communication internally. It's the sharing of those ideas. As you have a company, it's a startup. Everyone's together. Everyone's living and breathing. It doesn't matter what area of the company is. You're contributing. Everyone comes from a different angle. And so you're almost going to get the perfect result. As your teams grow out and they become more siloed, then they're separate. And then you don't get that cross-pollination. So one thing that I'm really working on now is how we can get that communication piece, that sharing of knowledge, information, into this beautiful organic sort of body. And so from that, we're looking from the tech side of things. We're obviously physically in place in the office, but how do we really keep that just sense of being and that startup mentality without the chaos.
Right.
The sort of the perfect blend.
Yeah. Sometimes I believe actually a good business also needs a certain amount of chaos. That no kingdom was ever lost in a peaceful time.
Yeah.
When it's too peaceful, it's also not. So I think a little bit of change. I worked for a big German company called Siemens a very long time back, and I always wonder, why do they change the org chart like permanently? Like one was just hardly implemented.
Yeah.
They already made the next chaos by implementing the next one. But I think I understood it later when I realized running our own businesses, how important it is to really have the movement and this startup entrepreneurial spirit in exhibitions, in the business. I think it's a special vibe you only can have at this stage.
Especially when you're a very niche business. I mean, if it's a business with scale, I think it has more ability to take that less innovative approach.
Sure.
Whereas we are trying to, service the most demanding, the most wealthy people on the planet, and the landscape is constantly evolving. So you can't rest easy. You can't be complacent and go, hey, we're top company in the world right now. Everyone's talking about us. If you rest, you'll start slipping down. And
what is your key success factor by making those most demanding people on Earth happy?
Yeah.
What is your success factors? Why are you able to make the most successful people, but also the most demanding people on Earth happy?
I think it's two things. I think it's what is very clear to me now with hindsight, going back through my journey, is authenticity, keeping real. We're in a world
honest communication.
Communication on your integrity, how you deliver, what you deliver. We're in a world now where it's so easy to promote. It's so easy to claim the world, to be the Everest of everything.
Right.
And I think the delta between the perception of what people are selling and what our reality is growing day by day, especially with the onset of AI. And so there's a trust thing here.
Right.
Am I really being sold what I'm being promised?
Yeah.
Do you believe a marketing push now? Do you believe a press piece? Are our journalists really being critical of the products they're reviewing, or they know if you say something bad about Apple, that door closes. So it's very difficult to disseminate what is real. So I think holding true to that authenticity is really important. And the other one is curiosity. Constantly being curious, getting out there, wonder, what's new, what's exciting. The world
to innovate, your services, your portfolio, interesting.
Yeah, joy, wonder, magic. The things that we all are children. We still are in touch with that childlike side that we have. If you could touch that with people, that's an amazing experience. So it's trying to infuse that childlike wonder, that new color, that new experience, that new place, and infuse that into
Let's talk about the most happiest moments in life. So what would you say, what really makes your customers now happy? What is it? Is it now really to go back to have this picture on the top of the mountains where hardly anywhere could be? Or was it to spend the time with the family or seeing the sunset? Or what is it at the end of the day in your?
That's such a broad question. I think sometimes it's the cultural interactions sometimes. There's a consistency in the guests that we have who have a certain level of success. And it's meeting people who come from a totally different world, totally different economic circumstances, sometimes nothing. And that cross-communication, that bridging of cultures. There's a preconceived idea of what this certain tribe should be like or what they're thinking.
So this tribe in Africa, hardly any Western person normally goes to.
Not going in and taking a picture or witnessing a ceremony, but actually going in and sitting down and breaking bread and having that cultural interaction, that human connection, because we are, as a society, we're becoming more individualistic. We have our phones, we have our little bubble. Yeah, we can WhatsApp people and we can FaceTime people, but is that real connection? You know, we don't have communities like we used to do. The villages are going. We don't tend to go to pubs and bars and societies as much as we were. And so we're becoming more lonesome. So to go to the other side of the world and meet someone who is another human being, despite wearing different clothes, different backgrounds, different fortunes, languages, circumstances, that is one of the greatest things you can do, is to connect and understand and share knowledge.
Deep.
So that, I think that's some of the more fulfilling interactions that
also for you.
And for me, yeah.
For you, we're looking back when you say one of those really happy moments in your life, memories.
So when I mean, the whole genesis of this journey is when I left school at 18 and I went and got a job on a horse riding safari in Kenya. At the time, I had no idea it was involving horses. It was back in the days of Fastamil and Teletext, and I didn't know how to ride a horse, which is a longer story. But there I was, this 18-year-old boy, you know, in the bush, and I was writing a letter home, you know, and again, we don't do these things, you know, now we just take a picture, send it, hashtag blessed, happy, whatever. But you talked about your feelings, you talked about the smells, the interactions, the conversations you had. And as I was writing this letter, I was listening to my Sony Discman, and I had Jimmy Cliff, the reggae player, playing, and this Maasai night watchman called Morefu, which is Maasai for tall or giraffe, comes up and he does a bit of Swahili, I do a bit of English, and he's like, "What's this?" And I can explain what a Discman was. So I just put the headphones on his ears. And, this guy, this is magic. This is witchcraft. Yeah. And before even allowing me to explain what it was, he was like, "I will give you 6 cows and my sister for this." Wow. But just like,
you took the cows as a sister.
We decided to not go with it. He had no way of getting new batteries. We were in the middle of nowhere, and I hadn't seen his sister. So I think.
Do you see a certain trend of what people maybe asked you for adventures in the past and what they ask you now, or more in the future now?
I think there's an awareness that the world's getting smaller. There's almost like an arms race. The moment there's a new destination, the place has opened up. I mean, the world is closing down quicker than it's opening up. There are more and more places that now are off limits. And I think there's getting a little bit of fatigue to the next 5-star lodge, hotel, trying to integrate in the local culture. You know, it serves a purpose. We work hard. You need to just have downtime.
Right.
But I think people now want a bit more. So we're seeing a need and an ask for what we call frontier travel. So we're going to places which aren't on the main route. Maybe they're politically a little bit uncertain. But again, the perception of what that uncertainty and the reality is sometimes very different. Yeah. You have a big country, maybe, I mean, you can talk about the Congo. The Congo is the size of Europe. Yeah. Now, one part of the Congo might be, you know, foolhardy, dangerous to go to. The other part, it's fine. So it's about doing an analysis of where. So recently we've had guests going to the Yemen, Somaliland, Chad, Central African Republic. I was there myself only January last year. We've had people in the Republic of Congo, the Congo, Gabon. So you know, places which some people will be like, this is terrible. I was advising some honeymooners yesterday. They're like, we really want to go to the Central African Republic, but it's too dangerous. It's like, parts of the country are too dangerous. The place that you want to go to is a wildlife conservation area. It is policed by the World Wildlife Fund. They have their own paramilitary anti-poaching unit. It is safe. You fly into the airport, you go to this hotel, you take a plane there, you're fine. You don't have any risk with Wagner or any sort of civil disturbance. if you want raw, real, incredible experience, you can go live with the pygmies in the jungle, go hunting for honey with them. These people have nothing but, my God, the joy, the music. I have my hair standing up when I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
You have these clearings in the forest called bais, where you'll see 150, 160 elephants congregating in the middle of the forest. And all the juveniles running around, screaming, making their noises. There's gorillas, there's monkeys, there's incredible river with all the transportation going down there, guys with canoes.
Yeah.
This is old world stuff. You feel like you're going back into a book from the 1800s.
Sure. It's interesting that sometimes those simple things are the ones, I don't know, that touch us most, that gives us also the most clarity and power. About my Unicorn Society group. You were a guest speaker there, so young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who build big, meaningful businesses. And we had a gathering in Dubai, and I booked a place in the desert. And then I let them walk for 4 hours by themselves. So I basically took the mobile phones away. I gave them an analog compass and said, okay, it's this direction. And you should not be too late because sun is going down. I didn't told them I also put a tracker in. So worst case, I could have tracked them, but they didn't know that. And for them, being just by themselves for 4 hours, they told me it was life-changing. So I had even wives from some of those participants calling me afterwards and saying, my husband didn't have such a smile on his face after the wedding. Thank you. So it's sometimes those little things, It is. Just being by yourself. And I also told them, when have you been last time 4 hours without looking at your phone in real life? And they're all CEOs, founders, business. So even on Saturday and Sunday, they okay, sometimes,
It's and again, I do a few podcasts here, and the other day I was asked, what would I like to get rid of? And I was like, it's social media. I think it is destroying our community. It's destroying our ability to communicate with each other. It's taking our time. And we're adults, but what about people's kids?
True.
They spend so much time, and this stuff is so toxic.
And so little in real life. Yeah. But I do follow you, and I love sometimes when every time you're in a different country, and every time I meet you, we went also skiing in Austria, and you said, Michael, I said, where are you going next? I'm not sure. Maybe I go to Zurich, maybe there. And now I ask you too, where are you going next? I'm not sure. So it's also nice to have this freedom, what you work for.
And that's a life choice. Some people, they get their stability and their comfort in planning things out for the year. I feel I get
the freedom.
Straight. I need that freedom. But again, life is all about balance. So for me, my what I'm working on now is actually getting a bit more balance and planning a bit more further out, but also keeping those isolated pockets of
Let's look very quick in the future. When will you offer the first trip outside of this world, somewhere in the universe?
So we've been looking at that since 2012, actually. And it's, first of all, I'd say there is still so much to be discovered on this 100%. Planet anyway, especially in the deep oceans. And
Exactly. When you have this, what you also showed me once where you went, it was how do you call those?
The submersibles, yeah.
And how deep can you go with them, by the way?
I think the recommended is sort of 300 meters, because after that, the wildlife, what you can see starts getting more limited.
So let's call it like a car with maybe 2 seats and full glass, and you can really go with the joystick down.
Spherical bubble. We operate one for a client. We actually manage it for him, which actually takes 7 people. So a pilot and 6 passengers, and he takes his kids and his parents with it. And he was a diver for the last 40 years, so he wants to show his family what he's experienced, because they don't dive themselves. But going back to the space thing, I did a lot of research on this 14 years ago. And back then, it was very, nothing was certain. You're essentially exploding yourself out of our atmosphere for a very short experience. And so the conclusion, what I've come to is there is balloon technology out there, which is far more secure, it's much more proven, and it's a much more sedate, serene experience. There's an outfit that we're working with which will take you up in a capsule, 8 people. So you can take a family, some friends, you can sit there, you can have a meal.
Nice.
If you want to go as a couple, you can put a bed in there, and the bed is for whatever you want to do.
Fly out.
And you have an 8-hour experience, just gently going up. You get to the curvature of the Earth. You don't get to true space. I mean, the interpretation of what space is a tricky one. Everyone talks about weightlessness. You only get weightlessness when you have gravity, because you're basically in free fall. This whole, it's a bit of a myth, this idea of just floating around. And so this will take you to a high enough altitude that you have that darkness, you see the curvature of the Earth, and you can position this balloon anywhere in the world. So you can do it above the Sahara, you could do it up in Scandinavia with the Northern Lights, you could do the backdrop of the Himalayas. Whereas if you have a rocket technology thing, you're up, it's a very brief affair. There's maybe 2 of you in the pod, 4 of you in the pod, you have a tiny porthole, and you're back again. And so, again, there's probably people who are better educated than me, have done more thorough research, and maybe they will decide that rocket technology is the one. For me, the most sort of secure and I think the most enriching experience in terms of how far your money goes, I think a balloon technology is the way forwards.
Super interesting. Henry, thank you so much for all the insights.
Yeah.
We as entrepreneurs can learn so much from all those expeditions. I can just highly recommend to look at your Instagram. We will have it in the notes. Thank you for listening and watching, and thank you for being such a good friend.
I'm so glad we crossed paths, we made this happen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Before you go, a quick note to all the entrepreneurial listeners out there. If you're looking for a reliable and efficient way to scale your online business and payments, I highly recommend checking out Coopcard.com. It's designed to streamline your processes from payment processing to customer management, all in one platform. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to scale up, Coopcard provides the tools you need to succeed. Visit Coopcard.com today and see how it can transform your business operations. Dive in and start optimizing your sales processes now.